An election born out of blood. That's the impact Bangladesh elections carry. Bangladesh votes on the 12th of February 2026, its first national election since students flooded the streets. Bullets flew, 1,400 lives lost, and Sheikh Hasina's iron grip finally cracked. An exile in India, a party banned, a prime minister sentenced in absentia. Now the ballot replaces the barricade. The BNP is back after years in the wilderness. Jamaat Islami is re-energized. The Awami League is missing from the battlefield entirely. This isn't just another election. It's a stress test for a nation that has stumbled from military rule to one-party dominance to street uprisings in barely 5 decades. Bangladesh has tried democracy before. It has watched it bend. It has watched it break. As voters line up again, we at India Today Global argue, will democracy finally stand in Bangladesh or fail once more? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. Records say on 26th March 1971, Bangladesh was formed. That was the date set by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman for the independence of Bangladesh from West Pakistan. In a fiery speech delivered on 7th March 1971 in Dhaka, Awami League's Sheikh Mujibur Rahman announced independence of East Pakistan from the West. It led to 9 months of Mukti Juddho, or the War of Independence. Official records say 3 million people were killed and thousands of women were violated during this War of Independence. When it ended, the territory of East Pakistan broke away to become Bangladesh. But what led to this intense independence war was an election. Bangladesh was still part of Pakistan when the general elections were held in the former East and West Pakistan in December 1970. The two parts of the country were geographically separated by 2,000 kilometers of Indian territory in between. The majority Bengali population in East Pakistan had been pushing for independence from majority Urdu-speaking West Pakistan when the election took place. Pro-independence politician Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Awami League won close to all 162 seats allocated to East Pakistan in the common Pakistani parliament in the December of 1970. In fact, Awami League also effectively won a majority in the then 313-seat National Assembly of Pakistan. This should have allowed it to form the national government of a united Pakistan with Sheikh Mujibur Rahman as Prime Minister. The Pakistani military government refused to allow Sheikh Mujibur Rahman to become Prime Minister. In response, led by the Awami League, East Pakistan started to fight for its independence. Pakistani army violently attacked activists, triggering the Bangladeshi Liberation War from March to December 1971, during which Bengalis in East Pakistan were ethnically cleansed. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was imprisoned at the beginning of the conflict, but a provisional government was formed in his absence in exile. It operated from Kolkata in India under acting President Syed Nazrul Islam until Rahman's release in January 1972 following independence. He then served as Prime Minister. The provisional government held Bangladesh's first general election in March 1973. It was controversial. While 14 political parties contested the election, the Awami League won an overwhelming 73% of the vote and snatched 293 of the 300 contested seats. Allegations of rigging polls through ballot stuffing and intimidating and arresting opposition leaders marred Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's image. It was also the starting point, some say, of Mujib's subsequent autocratic policies. A year later, in the year 1974, Mujib banned all opposition parties and ushered in a one-party state. He also restricted journalists' access to parliament. As Mujib tightened his grip, discontent grew in the power corridors of Dhaka. In August of 1975, in a bloody coup organized by mid-level officials and led by Colonel Syed Farooq-ur-Rahman, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and most of his family were assassinated in their home. A turbulent period started. Finance Minister Khondakar Mostaq Ahmad immediately declared himself president with the army's backing. He undid the one-party policy, allowing opposition parties to form before he was toppled in a counter-coup in November 1975 led by General Khaled Musharraf. Chief Justice Abu Sadat Muhammad Saim then ruled as president with the military support until he resigned on health grounds in April of 1977. Then Army Chief Ziaur Rahman took over as president. Zia, as he was popularly known, had also been a major figure during the liberation struggle. He was the one to broadcast the Bangladesh Declaration of Independence at the time. As leader, he is credited with instituting economic recovery in the struggling country by liberalizing the economy. He also pushed for a national Bangladeshi identity rather than a Bengali one, which until then had excluded minority ethnic groups. Most notably, he ushered in multi-party elections again. In February 1979, first polls since 1973 took place. Zia's newly formed Bangladesh National Party or BNP participated and won 207 out of 300 parliamentary seats. Mujib's Awami League became the major opposition party with 39 seats, and they claimed the elections were rigged by Zia. A year and 4 months later, Ziaur Rahman was assassinated in an abortive military coup on 30th May 1981. Vice President Abdus Sattar became acting president and conducted presidential elections in November that year. BNP again won 65% of the vote, but within months, Army Chief Hussain Muhammad Ershad seized power in a bloodless coup in March 1982, and he imposed martial law in Bangladesh. Ershad ruled for the next 4 years as a military dictator. When he held elections in May 1986, his Jatiya party won 183 seats, securing a parliamentary majority. Opposition parties like the BNP had boycotted the vote, calling it a sham. Opposition parties again criticized the elections held in March 1988 when the Jatiya party won 259 seats as unfair and manipulated. Widespread protests calling for Ershad's resignation broke out. The two most powerful women at the time in Bangladesh led these protests. Ziaur Rahman's widow, Khaleda Zia, led the BNP. The Awami League was led by Sheikh Hasina, the eldest of Mujib's two surviving daughters. They joined forces to lead mass protests in December 1990 and forced Ershad's government to resign. A caretaker government led by Supreme Court Justice Shahabuddin Ahmed held new elections on 27 February 1991, which were widely regarded as legitimate. Khaleda Zia's BNP won 140 seats, while Hasina's Awami League took 88. Ershad's Jatiya party won 35 seats. Khaleda Zia became Bangladesh's first woman prime minister. Bangladesh hoped for a new beginning of democracy in the country, but it proved to be too early. Over the next 5 years, tensions between the ruling BNP and Awami League were boiling. Led by Sheikh Hasina, the Awami League began pressing Khaleda Zia to hand power over to the caretaker government to conduct forthcoming elections. When she didn't, Awami League and other opposition parties boycotted the February 1996 election. This cleared the way for the BNP to win nearly all seats in parliament. But the voter turnout was one of the lowest in the country ever, at only 21%. General strikes across Bangladesh forced the BNP to hand power to a caretaker government just 12 days after the election. In March 1996, a requirement that a neutral caretaker government must oversee all future general elections was written into the Constitution of Bangladesh. Fresh elections were held in June with a much better turnout of 75%, and voting was widely seen as free. Sheikh Hasina won her first term as Prime Minister, with the Awami League securing 146 parliamentary seats, just ahead of the BNP with 116 seats. In due course of time, 5 years later, another caretaker government oversaw the next general election in October 2001. This time, opposition BNP surged in popularity and won 193 parliament seats, ahead of the ruling Awami League, which secured 62 seats. Khaleda Zia of the BNP was able to form government for a second time. This would be the last decade of Bangladesh's tryst with smooth democratic elections. What followed next set a pattern of autocratic concentration of power, opposition protests, and chaos. Ahead of the 2007 January elections, a dispute erupted between the ruling BNP and opposition Awami League and other major players over who would lead the next caretaker government. Riots broke out after the BNP named a retired Chief Justice with ties to then Prime Minister Khaleda Zia. Despite opposition, BNP-appointed President Ershad Ahmed ultimately declared himself leader of the caretaker government. Within days, riots broke out over discrepancies in the candidate list. Bangladesh descended into a political crisis that would last for several months. Ahmed declared a national emergency, allowing the military to intervene. In protest, Awami League withdrew from the planned elections. The elections were withheld and could only take place nearly 2 years later in December 2008. Bangladesh posted the highest voter turnout of its history with 80%, and it was also largely seen as fair. The Awami League, led by Hasina, allied with several other opposition groups and formed the Grand Alliance. The coalition ended up winning a majority of 230 seats. The BNP took just 30 seats. A new government was formed in January 2009. Hasina returned to power for the second time. But this second term soon became a highly criticized one. Hasina's Awami League government was openly critical of the military intervention that had delayed the 2009 election. Upon her return to power, she moved to amend the constitution to get rid of the caretaker government requirement. BNP boycotted the June 2011 parliamentary session, which voted on the amendment, leading to the amendment being passed by Parliament by a vote of 291 to 1. Sheikh Hasina's government also began to crack down on opposition leaders. Ahead of elections slated for 5th January 2014, opposition BNP leader Khaleda Zia was placed under house arrest, and there were widespread reports of violence against other opposition members as well. So on election day, the BNP and its supporters refused to participate. Hasina's Awami League, in the absence of the main opposition, won the elections again, securing 234 seats in parliament. This third term of Sheikh Hasina was widely panned in Bangladesh and internationally as illegitimate. The next general election was held on 30th December 2018, where voters for the first time could participate in electronic voting. BNP and other opposition parties accused the ruling Awami League Jatiya Party coalition of rigging despite the technological upgrades. There were again reports of violence against opposition BNP members and the party's supporters, as well as allegations of vote rigging. Awami League government had also banned Jamaat Islami, the country's largest Islamic party and a BNP ally at the time. Several Jamaat leaders were executed after convictions by a Hasina-appointed tribunal for alleged war crimes in 1971 Mukti Judho. The Hasina government claimed it had to shut down mobile internet ahead of the vote to stop the spread of fake news. Khaleda Zia of BNP was outright barred from running after she was convicted and handed a 17-year jail term in a corruption case. The BNP maintained that the trial was politically motivated. In the same case, Khaleda Zia was acquitted after Hasina's ousting in 2024. The Awami League Jatiya Party alliance won a supermajority in the 2018 elections with more than 90% of parliamentary seats, but the elections were broadly seen as a sham. The last election to be held under Hasina's administration was on the 7th of January 2024. In her fourth term, Sheikh Hasina continued to crack down on opposition politicians. On top of that, she was largely seen to have near total influence over the Electoral Commission that had been established in 1972. The opposition BNP boycotted the elections and the Jamaat was still under a ban, paving the way for Hasina to win her fifth term in office and cement her government's position as the longest-serving administration in Bangladesh's history. Bangladesh had effectively become a one-party state again, just what Sheikh Hasina's father Mujibur Rahman had done exactly 50 years ago. The only difference was Mujib did it with constitutional amendment, while his daughter Hasina managed it by cornering and nearly obliterating the opposition. In July 2024, mass protests led by students broke out after the Supreme Court restored a job quota system that had prioritized the descendants of the country's liberation activists. The 46-year-old law had initially been struck down in 2018 following student-led protests. Its reinstatement pushed thousands of students back into the streets in what is now called the July Revolution. The protests turned deadly as Hasina's government responded violently. Security officials massacred demonstrators in the streets, resulting in the deaths of at least 1,400 people, according to reports. On 5th August, Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled Bangladesh and took refuge in India. 3 days later, on 8th August, globally recognized economist and 2006 Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus took over as the interim leader. And for the next year and a half, Bangladesh went through many phases of chaos and riots in which minorities and Awami League were targeted before an election was announced and campaigns started. But this time, Sheikh Hasina is a convicted criminal sentenced to death in absentia and her party, Awami League, banned from taking part. It's an election where for the first time since its partition and independence, even a shadow of Mujibur Rahman is invisible. Bangladesh is trying to experiment with democracy once again to establish itself as a country run by constitution and not palace politics. But will it finally succeed? Thank you for watching Statecraft.